Probably hence why I'm trying to do this stuff on YouTube. And it's going well. I'm a natural. The other day, I took my drone out for its first proper flight of 2018. We've had a very, very long winter and I haven't been able to get the drone out much. I did take it to Munich and I got some decent shots and decent footage flying around the castles, but it was just too cold. So at one point in Munich, while I was flying around Neuschwanstein Castle, I actually nearly lost the drone because it was so cold. My phone shut off, so I lost the video signal and I couldn't really see where the drone was because it was so white and just snow coming down. Bit silly of me to fly it really, but I had to navigate it back and land it by ear. Fortunately I did it, got some decent photos and footage, and all was well. Because the weather's quite nice now, we had a really nice mild evening. I took the drone down to Barry Island, which is where the local pleasure park is. It's just a fairground. Essentially it's a place where every summer they ship in a bunch of rides and people go there, buy donuts, buy tickets, spin around on things and then go home. It's a really great location. There's a nice beach stretch, there's some greenery, there's the fairground. While I was there, I was flying, a guy hollered over to me and he was like, "Is that a drone?" And I said, "Yes, it is a drone. Come over if you want to see." So he came over, sat down, we had a bit of a chat and I showed him what the drone was doing. Showed him the view through the screen on the drone controller so he could see what the drone was seeing. Brought the drone around. He was very impressed and I'm happy to do that. One of my favorite parts about flying the drone, anytime I have been, is when people come over and engage in conversation. And I know a lot of people might not like that because they might feel like people are encroaching, but I really enjoy sharing this sort of viewpoint and what I'm doing with other people. Probably hence why I'm trying to do this stuff on YouTube. And it's going well. I'm a natural. But yeah, I like that. I like showing people what I'm doing. So the guy came over, we had a good chat, and then I went about flying. When all was said and done, I'd flown around Barry Island, brought the drone back down, and packed up my bag and decided to make my way back to the car to go home. Everything was dark by that point, the pleasure park. The fairground had been shut down, all the lights were off and everyone had gone. But I noticed there was still one gate left open, which would have let me cut through to my car quicker than actually walking all the way around the exterior. So I decided to go through. And I'm really glad I did. While I was there, I took this photo. When I was editing this photo, I wasn't sure whether I was going to share it on Instagram or anything like that. That's where I put most of my photos, on Instagram. I do have a website as well, which you can find here. But you can find my Instagram here, which is where I upload most of the photos that I think are worthwhile. This one, however, I was a little hesitant to upload because this photo was a complete accident. I essentially walked through the place, saw a fairly decent composition of shapes. I didn't really try very hard to get anything spectacular. I put the camera on the floor and then I just played around with the shutter speed and the aperture and I just ended up with this. I took a bunch of photos, but this one was the one that came out the nicest. And the reason I didn't really feel like sharing it was because I didn't feel like I'd done anything deliberate. The photo came out quite nicely, but it wasn't through anything that I had done. It wasn't like a formula I'd followed where I thought if I use this shutter speed, this aperture, I'll get this result. It was purely just playing around and messing with the settings on messing with the manual settings on the camera. So I felt like a bit of a fraud. However, I did decide to upload it because it was a nice image, and it turns out that this is one of the photos that I've had the most engagement with on Instagram. It got a lot of likes, it got a lot of comments, and it was, you know, I like that. People engaging with what you produce is one of the joys of photography, I suppose. So I uploaded it, people liked it, and then I thought I would just make this video as a way of saying to beginner photographers, firstly, explore and play around with your equipment. If I hadn't taken that little path through the fairground that I took, I could have gone all the way around and walked a normal way to my car, but I decided to just dip in on a whim. I would never have stumbled across this scene. It's really valuable to go out and explore new places, and even though this was a familiar place to me, just taking that path through at that particular time, you know, which wasn't my intended path, I stumbled across this thing and I was able to play around and get a decent result. And then the second thing I wanted to mention is that playing around with the camera is part of the process of learning. So while I felt like I hadn't done anything deliberate to get the result of that image, it was still a good image and it was something that I enjoyed seeing and enjoyed shooting. I mean, you learn by doing, I guess, you know. Photography isn't about formulas and, you know, if I change this here and do that there, I'll get this image and this aperture will give me this. And I'm sure, you know, there are ways to take pictures in that way, but there's also a huge part of the enjoyment that I get out of photography is just going out with my camera, learning how to use it in the field and just play with the equipment. You know, don't hesitate to share it with people. If you like the image, share it with people. It might not be as technically sound as you want, but images are images. Happy accidents happen. Another thing I'd like to talk about, I'd just like to mention one particular Instagram account that I have been thoroughly enjoying for the past few months. This guy, his name is Matchstick Lake, but he's got one of the most consistent feeds that I've seen in a long time. His theme is very woodland, very rural, couple of shots of animals thrown in there and some farming equipment and stuff like that. It's just a really nice image. I just really like his style, and it's something that I'd like to perhaps emulate in my photography. So here's a little scroll through his feed. If you feel like going and following him and giving him a look, then I'm sure he'd appreciate more followers. Maybe even let him know who sent you, if anybody watches this. So yeah, Matchstick Lake on Instagram. I might do this every so often. If there's a particular feed I like following or somebody I'm being influenced by, I'll pop them here. Appreciate you. Have a great day.